Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and this is day 19 of the 80 Days to Your Dream Body course. Today's protein source is going to be rabbit, and today is going to be a shoulders and arms training routine. And the theme for today's workout is going to be assisted PNF stretching. So right now, I'm going to be demonstrating some more assisted PNF stretches. Now let's get started. And while we were resting, let's continue with our PNF demonstration in side lying. We just ended up flexing the knee extensors with the hip flex. That was going to be more for the deep knee extensors like the vastus intermedius, medialis, and lateralis. Now we are going to flex the knee extensors with the hip extended. By extending the hip, we're going to be getting a lot more of the superficial fibers and a lot more of the rectus femoris. What we would do for this one right over here, there's a few different hand positions that we could go with. One is we could do the traditional hand on the sacrum with the fingers pointing up. And then what we would do for this one right over here is we would just go ahead with one hand at the medial condyle of the femur, and then with the tibia and fibula sandwiched between the bicep and the obliques, we would go ahead and take the hip into extension. From this position right over here, once we have the patient in extension, what we would do is have them go into knee flexion. And once again, we could also isolate the various movements. So if we wanted to segregate each of the movements, what we would do is go into extension first and instruct the patient, inhale, bring your knee forward. They would inhale, contract and bring the knee forward. Exhale, relax. On the exhale, you would lean out, go into extension. Then you could go ahead and take them into knee flexion to stretch the knee extensor. So you would just walk toward them, and then you would ask them to inhale and give you a kick. They would inhale, give you a kick, and then on the exhale, traction out, take them deeper into flexion. And then finally, we could do a combination movement. So with the combination, inhale, bring your knee forward and give me a kick at the same time. So they would go into hip flexion, knee extension, and then on the exhale, traction out, take them into hip extension and knee flexion. This would be a good position for either somebody who is very, very tiny or somebody who is very, very restricted. If somebody has great mobility with regard to their hip flexors and knee extensors, then you're not going to be able to get a full stretch in that position because your body's going to get in the way and you're not going to be able to get full knee flexion. So what you would do in that case, if somebody has great flexibility, is what you could do is take the foot, and you could take the dorsal surface of the foot and anchor it onto your pelvis. Just bring your foot forward a little bit into flexion. That way it has a nice pocket to sit into. With the bottom hand, you would go at the medial condyle of the femur. And then with your stabilizing hand, same thing. You could stabilize at the pelvis. And we would do the same thing. We would go into extension, inhale, bring the knee forward. They would bring the knee forward. Exhale, relax, traction, take them into extension. Then, using your hips, you would shift them into knee flexion and instruct them, inhale, give me a kick. They would inhale, give you a kick. For a larger patient, this is going to be a lot more comfortable because it's going to be easy for them to move your arm out. If they're very strong and very large, it's going to be very taxing. But if they're very large and very strong, they can give me as hard of a kick as they want. They're not really going to be able to budge me in this position. But anyway, they would kick, and then you would take them further into flexion. And then you could do a combination. Inhale, bring the knee forward, and give me a kick at the same time. They would inhale, they would bring the knee forward, they would give you a kick, and then on the exhale, take them into extension, and then just use your hip to gently guide them toward your butt. This way, this is as far as Johnny can go because he has a little bit of osteophytes in the knee and he can't get past here. However, this is going to be ideal because if Johnny did have enough flexibility, I would be able to get his heel to touch his butt from this position. But if I was doing it in this position over here, my body's in the way, so I can't do it. So if you have somebody who is either very, very flexible or very, very large, do the second position because it's going to be a lot less strenuous for your body. But this one right over here, primarily, this is going to be targeting the rectus femoris because, again, we are targeting both the proximal and the distal attachment of the rectus femoris. Rectus femoris goes from the anterior inferior iliac spine to the patella. So we're stretching it at both ends. It's a lot more superficial, this stretch, than the previous one. We are still getting the vastus intermedius, vastus medialis, and vastus lateralis, but not near as much as we were during the previous stretch. And then to a lesser extent, we are going to be getting a little bit of the tensor fasciae lati due to the hip being in extension. And we're also going to be getting a tiny bit of the iliopsoas muscle due to the hip extension. Remember, the psoas is a hip flexor. So when we take it into extension, we are going to be targeting one out of its three actions. But the rectus femoris is really where this stretch shines. So anybody who has any issues with the rectus femoris, this is the one. But our rest period is up. Time for the seventh and final set. That was just a tiny taste of what can be found in my members only section. If you enjoyed it, become a member for only $5 a month to get access to hundreds of member only videos.